Okay. Hey there. Let's get started. So in this tutorial here, I'm going to show you how to fire up Eclipse, how to create your workspace, how to create a hello world in Java, and finally we're going to start with a little bit of object-oriented programming. So down-click this, get rid of that, unclick that. Don't worry, I've got enough RAM for this to be alright. So first thing, here's my Eclipse shortcut. I want to double click that, the usual stuff, and run. And this is firing up Eclipse, the workspace in which you'll create your Java programs. So as you can see, I already have a workspace that I've set up, and I'll just show you through the browse how you can set up your own. So local C is generally where most people make their stuff. I have an extra slave drive in here just called local disk E. Got tons of applications, and then over here I created a folder called Eclipse projects. And then within Eclipse projects, I made a folder called Atom. All this extra stuff here, the metadata, the mylin, the plugins, don't worry about it. Eclipse is going to create that for you on your own. So once you have the place that you want to work in, hit OK, or click it, hit OK. It should show up here like this, and then you hit OK. It's going to boot a little faster for me because it's already created all that metadata and good stuff, but for you, if it's the first time, it might take a little longer. So here's our Java Eclipse workspace. We've got stuff over here. You can go ahead and get rid of task list and outline. They might be useful for you if you want to use them later, but for the basic stuff we don't have to worry about it. The main thing I want you to have here is your window. This is where our source code is going to be typed. This is your package explorer. I'll explain what goes in here in a second. And down here is just some extra stuff for later. Well, when we start executing our programs, we can see our output down here in a tab that'll open up like this called console. So let's go back to the package explorer over here. Java projects that you put together have a particular structure, and I'm just going to walk you through how you would make this structure and then explain each of the parts as the way. So the first thing you want to do is right click here and go to new and hit Java project. So as with naming conventions, if I try to do lowercase, it probably won't like it. You can do that, but it generally wants you to make an uppercase name, so we'll call this my first project. You'll notice also here the camel case typing. So first letter of each word is capitalized for the most part, or sometimes it's lowercase. We'll get into why later. And then you go lowercase for the rest of the word. And then when you start a new word, you capitalize it, and the rest of the letters are lowercase. This just makes it easy to read because you're not allowed to have spaces a lot of the times in programming. So that's all you need to worry about right now. We're going to execute this environment in 1.8. This is Java 1.8. I think it came out last year, if I'm not mistaken. Doesn't matter. It's got a bunch of good stuff in it. You probably wouldn't be able to tell the differences just starting out programming, and for the most part 1.8 will be fine. So just go ahead and click finish. Okay, so build your project. You want to down click here, you're going to see a couple things. The JRE system library. This has got a bunch of good stuff in here that you don't have to worry about at all. Just ignore that for your simple projects. Source here, this is the first folder that's going to contain all your packages. A package, so we have the top structure here, the big daddy, the my first project. This is your project. It's going to contain all the packages you can imagine that you would need to execute your program for whatever it's going to do. Then in here we have source, which is generally the source package where you put your source code in, the stuff that you're actually typing. And then sometimes you'll include extra packages. For example, I worked on a project where I had to pull in a stat package that did different statistics analysis of arrays and such and data. Anyway, so that wouldn't be contained in the source package. That's going to be contained in the stats package, which is just going to go alongside of it. Now there's a little bit of, we'll get into why for the most part, you can use anything that's in another package as long as you import that package. Sorry about that. As long as you import another package in. So as long as you import stat package, boom, you now have the stat stuff that you can use with all the classes in there. But let's just get beyond that. So you want to create your own package here to write your code in. So you go new, package, and then so packages, you generally don't uppercase them. As you can see here with the Eclipse thing, by convention package names usually start with a lowercase. So we'll just say my first package. So you can camel case here. Some people like to do the undercased like that to simulate the space. I think it's just easier to camel case in my opinion. It's whatever you like to do and whatever you can read better. Generally, Java conventions recommend you do camel case though. So now we have inside of source, which is where all our code is, we have my first package. And my first package is empty. What do you put inside a package? You put an object. And that doesn't mean anything to you right now, but let's just get hello world going, the classic program that you want to get started in any language that you start. It's the first building block. And so to do that, we're going to go new, and then here's where we actually create a class. Click on class. So there's a lot of information here. The most important thing you need to do is type in the name. So you are going to capitalize the name here. So we'll call this the driver. Generally, a driver, as the name would suggest, drives the code. So you're going to create a main driver, and then you're going to fill this driver with any other code that you created in other objects. Instead of just making it all in one file, you're generally going to export your extra objects into, different classes, different packages, and then your driver is going to be this very clean, concise class that executes the commands that you want to do. So, alright, we've called it driver. We're going to make it public. That's all you need to worry about right now. Don't worry about this extra stuff. However, as like a little extra thing here, public static void main, every driver needs one of these. This is the method that's looked for when you execute your driver. So generally your driver is going to be called your main class. This can be, we'll get into this stuff later, but for all purposes, you'll have a main class, and in this main class you'll have one main method here, and we'll get into what a method is when we get into class creation, and it's going to be called public static void main. But instead of you typing all that stuff, you can click this little checkbox right here, and then it'll automatically fill that out for you. So let's just finish and see what we get. So boom, create everything. The first thing you'll notice up here is the declaration of what package this class lives in, my first package. The next thing you'll notice is that to define a class, we say public class driver, and then we have our public static main void. So I'll explain what public and class means and what all this other stuff means when we create an actual class. But for now, let's get some output to the console. Okay, so to be able to output to the console line, which doesn't mean anything to you right now, but it will in a second when I execute this. You do system.out.println. If you don't use the ln, you won't get a new line, and I'll show you the difference between the two in a second. So system.out.print, and then inside here you're going to put what we call a string. All you need to know about a string right now is that it's contained between two double quotes. Whatever's inside of here, for the most part, unless the IDE yells at you, is allowed and will be printed out. You close the parentheses that encapsulate the string, and then you end it with a semicolon. So let's execute that. To do that, we just go up here and hit run. And it says you have to save your resources. Okay, we'll do that. Hello world. So you see out here it printed hello world. And so you can mess with this all you want, printing out to the line, but I want to show you what happens when you don't use the ln. Okay. Click it again. Okay, so you're going to see down here that when we try to print without the ln, there's not a new line character. So it just butts it up right against the previous one that was printed out. What's a new line character? Generally it's the / and n. It's not going to color it differently, and here's what happens when you print it out. Boom, you get a new line. So whenever you use ln, whatever is in this string it automatically tacks a /n at the end of it, and it'll print a new line for you. Okay, so that concludes this basic video on how to create your first project, package, and class in Eclipse, and how to run it. And here's where you get your output. Thanks.